Hello and welcome to another Overlord lore video, and today we are going to take a look at what likely would have happened if Bukubukuchagama would have been transported to the new world as the sole remaining player instead of Ainz Ooal Gown, or rather Momonga. But before we are doing so, let me thank my Patreons for supporting this channel. And with that said, let's dive straight into the first change. Alberto would keep her original character biography, and thus she would be able to write her Bicon, and likely anybody else she wishes. And before we look at any other change, a quick description of Bukubuku's character. She was outgoing, cheerful, and quite assertive, especially towards her brother. She could take and make jokes, and as a voice actress, she also employed her acting skills in this regard. For example, the watch Ainz Ooal Gown had worn during his battle with Shaltir was voiced by Bukubuku, which likely will get its own video. And while she will love her newfound freedom, and as a voice actress likely will take better to the role of a supreme being and overlord as Ainz did, and while she might also turn Nazarick into this game because she can, and because like Ditto she can be anything she wants to be, at one point she will realize that something is missing in her life, her brother. Now, while both had their differences, they were actually quite close, and thus Bukubuku will send out a search squad like Ainz did in order to find her brother, and perhaps any other guild members. Though again in this timeline, Alberto's quite promiscuous and not madly in love with the player character, thus making her search squad an actual search squad. After taking some of the best fighters and a lot of wide area information gathering units, Alberto will leave the Great Tomb and travel the world, and imagine it like 100 Nazgul would leave Minas Morgul in search for the brother instead of the ring. Prior to her departure, Demiurge will be put in charge of the internal affairs, and he will likely use the mercenary system and the remaining units to form a makeshift intelligence network, with him as the head and selected agents like the Evil Lords as his executive officers. So some of the stuff from the 7th to the 14th novel will happen right at the start, and all of this will likely result in the death of Karen, Gazev, and Irantel, since Bukubuku will be occupied with the planning of the search and rescue mission for her brother, rather than with using the mirror of remote viewing herself. Again, she is known for defending the base when nobody else is around, so she likely wouldn't leave and therefore organize the search and rescue squad. But nonetheless, the end of Irantel will be a great event. Something so close will catch the attention of Demiurge and Albedo, who both will report back. Thus other floor guardians like the Shaltir will be sent out to get a general idea of the situation and who was responsible for it. For all Bukubuku knows, this might have been the work of Momonga, so sending out Shaltir, with whom Momonga fought quite often side by side, would make sure that Momonga recognizes his allies when he sees them. And in case of a conflict, Shaltir, at least from Bukubuku's perspective, would very likely win. And in case it's her brother investigating the situation, Shaltir will also instantly be recognized. However, the end of Irantel will also likely involve the Black Scripture, because it will divert its attention towards the ruined city in order to investigate it, likely mistaking Zurnon's doing for the appearance of the now resurrected Coffin Dragon Lord, and Shaltir will likely be the only thing left of her brother, and thus Bukubuku will grow very protective of her, which means during the battle between Shaltir and the Black Scripture in Irantel and the resulting mind control, Bukubuku is possibly not above using a world-class item to free Shaltir from the effects of downfall of castle and country. Though since she also has displayed good leadership skills, Bukubuku could also act like Ainz did in the original timeline, by presenting herself vulnerable in the hope of baiting out hidden enemies, though at some point she would likely bring other guardians into the fight, especially Aura might request to join in order to help her best friend to get rid of the mind control, which would likely also bring Mare into the picture, albeit at some point directly, alongside a team of pretty hard hitters, for example Cocytus or Sebas, who then will attack Sheltie relentlessly while she is busy fighting Bukubuku, thus enabling Cocytus and Sebas to solely focus on the offense. And the reason for Sheltie's tunnel vision is rooted in Bukubuku's skill set. She is great at managing the rage, the aggro, the hate of enemies, aka who the enemy wants to attack, and she will of course choose herself as the target, so that others can attack freely. And while Bukubuku had relatively low stats, her equipment provided her with an awesome defense. So all in all, Sheltie will be overwhelmed and then revived, which brings us to the last point. Revenge. Bukubuku holds Sheltie as a substitute for her brother, and someone just hurt Sheltie in the most cruel way possible. Therefore, the following months will be spent by searching for a culprit, and the only two nations related to world item holders would be the slain theocracy and the Arkland Council State. And while Demiurge advised Ainz Ooal Gown to stay out of the theocracy until more is known, this had been in regards to a world conquest plan, and again, as one of the two only nations being powerful enough to harbor a world-class item, Slain would be investigated by Demiurge, Albedo, and likely anybody else. And sooner rather than later the intelligence of the Great Tomb would pick up rumors about elite units of the theocracy. For example, this kind of information could be revealed after Nezarec offers protection towards the Dragon Kingdom against the Beastman invasion, in exchange for certain information. And with the intel obtained, the Great Tomb will set up a made-up threat, for example of another Dragon Lord returning or something like that, in order to bait out the Black Scripture, or literally any other scripture. The Great Tomb will also likely investigate the Elf Kingdom, since the kingdom is at war with the slain theocracy, thus learning more about the internal politics, therefore revealing a motive why the attack on Sheltie happened. So one way or another the Great Tomb under Bukubuku and the Black Scripture under Neuronist will learn and reveal who attacked Sheltie, and at this point it will be war. Even with Albedo and her search unit being absent, the Great Tomb is an absolute monster, and in the bonus novel we have learned that a horde of monsters had destroyed 3 nations. So the Great Tomb has the power to absolutely annihilate the slain theocracy, especially with the scriptures dead or captured, though I believe that Bukubuku will make it so, that the ones responsible be captured alive, in order for Neuronist and the 5 Worst in general to make their remaining lives living hell. As for the rest of the nations, Platinum will likely try to stop Bukubuku if she would attack other nations, but since he would likely see it as a net benefit if 2 player nations fight with another, he might find the war with Slain insufficient to require his own involvement. As for the other nations that are now aware of Nezarec's existence, I think they will submit, while Bukubuku will make their lives better by ending wars, hunger and sickness, thus conquering the nations with the same mix of kindness and cruelty as Ainz did in the original timeline. Again, the population will be treated fairly and justly, since Bukubuku still has empathy and pity. So in conclusion, an enraged Ditto will destroy the slain theocracy and then bring world peace. And with that said, I say thank you very much for watching, and special thanks to Almighty Dio, Bad Guy Ye, Ben C, Chrissy, Sia, Death is Mercy, Dystopia the Second, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, Kratos, Chromius, Legendarius, Lelouch V. Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Matthew, Mr. Shoes, Michael R, Michael Y, O'Kill, Paddy Pantum, Primus 11, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rock Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Venture Fanatic, Wave of Manga, Wilhelm, and Sonnegon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video. Over and out.